What is up, world? You are in tune to the KnoItAllz podcast with your usual suspects. Your main man, Big G. What is popping, Big G?
Man, it's Ohio, man. The weather changes like they know tomorrow. So I got an opportunity to get my yard done and I'm out working. So I took a hot second to come in and deal with the fellas on the podcast.
Yeah, man. And also we got Tate here, man. Tate, what's popping, G? How you doing today?
Hey man, not too much, man. We just was talking to Big G off camera, man. It's nice out here today and stuff too in the DMV, man. But I ain't doing no yard work.
And our special guest today, we have Anthony K, man. Anthony, what is up, man? It's good to have you here. How you doing today?
Audio.
Your audio is off. Audio still off. No. Yeah, we got you. What we're gonna do, man, we're gonna definitely jump into our intro, work out these audio issues with my man Anthony, so we get that together. But like we do all the time, man, if you like the show, make sure you like and subscribe. And definitely when we go live, you will be able to kick it with us here. We'll get back to you right after this. And you are back with your main man, and definitely we here with Anthony K from Sports Fluent. Anthony, you got your mic on over there now? Oh my gosh, yeah, it's still off. We still. One second. Do us a favor, if you can't get it there, just try logging out and logging back in and see if that works.
Can you hear me now?
Oh, we got you. We got you loud and clear.
All right. Once in a while, you just got to reset the mic. I haven't had to do that in a long time. I sometimes have video issues. I never have audio issues, although some people wish they would mute me more on some of them other shows. But
yeah, man, listen, we've had it before. I mean, when you're doing stuff and it's live, you just got to roll with the punches. You definitely got to roll with the punches. Well, we have you here, man. You're from Sports Fluent. You definitely do your podcast. Tell us a little bit about yourself, man. Talk to us about your platform and your podcast.
I do I have two main things and maybe one that's actually upcoming. So Sports Fluent was kind of the thing that started everything, but kind of the main show was Fluent and Chill. So myself and my co-host Jermaine, most people know him as Chilltown, the OG Chilltown 32. We do a weekly, twice a week, Fluent and Chill, where we talk about sports, talk about life. I also do for my football. I need my football fix. I do Player's Choice Gridiron. So that's part of the Player's Choice kind of basketball show. We do a football version of it. And other than that, it's guest stuff like this. I've been on ESPN Radio. I've been on a bunch of podcasts. And I never have technical issues. So I got to be honest with you. I don't know if you could see the Ditka jersey behind me. Right before I came on, that fell off the wall and my mic wasn't working. So I've never had anything. So this either could be a great show or terrible. So I apologize to those who are listening if it's terrible.
I think it's going to be the great one.
All right. Let's go with that.
Definitely. So I want to jump right into it, man, while we have you. Definitely, I came across you, and I thought that you were one of the more educated persons that I heard talking about certain topics. And the first topic I want to jump into before we actually get in current events here is the LeBron Jordan debate, right? We hear this all the time We definitely hear the debate on who is the GOAT, who is the greatest. I just love for you to talk to the know-it-all listeners about your take, man. Give us your take on who is the greatest.
So let me start by saying, because every time you pick one or the other, everybody wants to kill you and be like, oh, that person's trash. No, just because you pick one over the other doesn't mean the other one is trash. They're very, very close. And in fact, in my all-time list, this will tell you how much respect I have for LeBron James. In my top 20 all-time list, I have one active player because I don't put active players into my all-time lists. The reason I don't do that is if you take a look at Dwight Howard's first 5 years, I use him because he's the best example. You were thinking greatest center of all time after the first 5 years. What happened after that? You're not saying that anymore. So I want that full picture to be clear to me, and then I can place them in the all-time great categories. So the fact that I have LeBron James in this conversation at all is the greatest compliment I can give a player because he's the only one. That being said, I got Michael Jordan at 1. I got LeBron 2. The reason that is for me is the way that I break it down. Now, everyone breaks theirs down a little bit differently, but I break it down offense, defense, accolades, intangibles. They're weighted differently. Don't get me wrong. Each thing that I'm going to say, it doesn't have the same weight. Like accolades don't equate as much as, some of the offensive stats. But when I look at the offense, I break it down pretty tight. So I go through, I look at field goal percentage. I look at scoring. I look at offensive. I break up offensive and defensive rebounding. I break down all the stats offensively. Turnovers, that's in the mix. Again, they're weighted differently. So I give the edge to Jordan because of his ability to score, the fact that he doesn't turn the ball over as often. He's a better offensive rebounder. Of course, LeBron gets the passing, the playmaking, right? Obviously, he gets that. But I still got the slight edge to Jordan. I also look at playoffs. People only look at regular season stats. I also compare playoff stats. And in playoff stats, there are two players, if you look at, and guys, interrupt me because I know I talk a lot. They're two of very few players that actually their numbers go up in the playoffs. If you look at the majority of players, because the pace of the game slows down, defense tightens up, you're playing the same team 4 to 7 times, they game plan for you better. What happens to most players? Look at Wilt Chamberlain. He's a great example. Their numbers go down in the playoffs. So I also compare that. So again, it's very close. Defensively, look, LeBron could have been the greatest defender of all time, but I think he was smart enough to be like, if I put all my effort into defense, it's going to hurt my offense. And so he takes plays off. He does, right? But he has the ability to be great.
I agree.
Right? He does. Jordan, on the other hand, did it a different way. He allowed a player like Pippen to develop, and then obviously in the second three-peat, they brought in Rodman to say, hey, you take that defensive responsibility, but even if I'm guarding the second or third option, I'm going full out on them, right? And so there was that effort. So defense, again, slight edge to Jordan. So we got that there. Accolades, I don't think I'm going to jump to accolades because that's the easy one. Jordan just has way more accolades, right? Now, some of that is team stuff, but, between the defensive player of the years, the MVPs, the scoring titles, that kind of stuff, he's got it. Now, that's why I'd say I put that down a notch because, look, there's people that vote, right? The narrative goes into that, certain things, etc. But he still got that. And then the last thing is intangibles. Longevity. I give LeBron James 2 check marks for longevity, not just 1, because he's 19 years and he's still scoring 30 points a game.
Yeah, he is. He definitely is.
I don't think there's been anybody, the guys that have played 20 years, the Vince Carters, the Kobes, the Kareems, they drop off. Like Kareem in his last 2 years, 14 points, 10 points a game. It was a different guy in those last couple of years. So he's got that. Coachability is one that I get into a lot of debates about, but I got Jordan under coachability. One, because listen, when Doug Collins was removed as head coach, in today's era, they're asking for a trade. Because what did Doug Collins, I don't know if you know this line from Doug Collins. He goes, what's your offensive strategy? Give the ball to Mike, move out of the way.
Correct.
That's my offensive strategy.
Yeah.
Phil Jackson came in and brought in Tex Winters, brought in this triangle offense and said, no, you're not getting those stats. You're not getting the ball in your hand all the time. You're going to get it. You're going to bail us out if we need to. But this is a read and react motion offense. Everyone's going to have an opportunity. Man, as a superstar, that's tough to buy into. And I think that's the one thing that LeBron, if you're being real, like take the LeBron, if you're a huge fan of LeBron's, take that bias out of it for a second. The one thing that he has never changed is this is my team. I run the offense. It goes through me. I think he actually would have won more if he took some of that responsibility and allowed, look, he was in Cleveland. They didn't do a good job of the front office of putting people around
Not
him.
at all.
So I understand.
Correct.
I do understand it, but he took that out. So coachability, listen, are we going to argue drive, hunger to win, competitiveness?
You can't argue that. There's
It's
no way
closer
that
than you think.
argue that.
It's closer than but it's Jordan.
So let me ask you a question. So Kareem doesn't enter the conversation at all. Irvin Johnson doesn't enter the conversation at all.
100%. I got them 1, 2, 3, 4, and you can make a case for all. Magic's the hard. It's funny. Magic's the reason I started watching basketball. His rookie season was the first year that I started watching basketball. Was the first why I became a Laker fan. Like it was all about Magic. So it's hard for me to say this, but it's hard for me to make a case that he's better than Kareem, LeBron, or Jordan. It's tough. Just because when you look at shooting and some other, there's some other his defense. Like his defense was good. People underestimate his defense. It was good, but it was never elite. Even if you wanted to, right? It was never elite.
I think Magic rises to the top. You'd have to put him number one at overall leadership and winning. Those are his intangibles that he has over those other guys.
And
I give Magic a lot of credit because listen, although he had the early success, right, rookie season winning the title. If you go in about 5 years, 6 years, right, Larry comes in at the same time. He's considered the best. He wins 3 straight MVPs. Like everyone, and instead of kind of getting down on it, Magic goes and works on his game, and he gets a mid-range, and he gets better at defense, and he becomes a better player, and then he surpasses him at the tail end. Now, unfortunately, neither of them had, I think, long enough careers.
But during Bird's 3 MVPs, how many championships did Bird win?
One,
right? I think he just has the one. Yeah, and Magic had 2.
Magic got 2. During him,
I know. I'm with you. You're not gonna. You don't have to fight me on Magic.
So that's a perfect segue, man. I mean, we're getting these shows on Magic Johnson.
I just want to comment real quick, Mod, about
go ahead
about Anthony's take. The turnovers. I think the turnovers was more. I would probably guess that Jordan's usage was probably higher than LeBron's, but LeBron is trying to facilitate. When Jordan had the ball, he was more than not looking to get a bucket, looking to score. So that would maybe be a factor in the turnovers. If I don't know, but I'm going off what he said.
So Jordan does have higher usage rate. Let me dead this misconception that LeBron is a pass first player. He is not. Right. Here's why he is not. You want to with James fans, you want to talk total numbers, and total numbers is that he has he's the second highest scorer of all time. Yep, he also has if you're going to do that, he also has number 2 in field goal attempts. He's number 2 all time. In terms of per game, he's number 12 for his career. Mm-hmm. It's around the same as Kobe. Now, granted, Kobe shot less later on, but hey, that's why you look at career numbers. So, does anyone ever say Kobe's a pass first guy?
Absolutely not.
I think we confuse 2 things: basketball IQ, making the right play, and willing passer with pass first. You can't be top 10, top 15 field goal attempts per game in the history of basketball and not be a scorer first. So he is. Right. And then to your point about the turnovers, yes, it's higher than Jordan's because for most of Jordan's career, although not the first half of it, for most of it, LeBron passes the ball more. Although when Jordan was a point guard, he averaged over 8 assists, 10 out of 11 games, you had a triple-double. That just wasn't what they asked him to do. But if I'm going to give LeBron credit for the assists, because he passes more, you got to give him, unfortunately, the negative for the turnovers too. Because if he didn't do that, he wouldn't have more assists. So you got to give it both ends. But to your point, yes, you're right. It's because he does that more. Like Magic, I think, averages the most turnovers per game in the history of basketball, but he also has 11 assists to go with it. So that assist to turnover ratio kind of balances out.
Yeah, definitely. Right. Do you guys have anything else to say about that LeBron Jordan debate before we actually switch gears and get into what we were talking about with Magic?
Tate, you got something, man? Because I got something. Go ahead, man.
No, go ahead. I mean,
So this is my question about LeBron. right? This is my question, because I understand that you want to talk about all the intangibles, and I actually understand that it's not fair to compare eras of basketball because they play a completely different game. The game now, basketball is still draw to and kick. It's always been draw to and kick, but it used to be played inside out. Now it's played outside in. The draw twos at the top of the key. You run a high pick and screen. The guy versus pick and rolls, picking and popping. And then you always don't. And back in the day, in the 60s, 70s, 80s, even in the 90s, you dump the ball low to your big man because that was your dominant player, right? Now it's outside the three-point parameter. It's draw to and kick. But my question is, how would LeBron fit in the era that most of us call the greats? Between like that 1981 to that 1999 era, how would he fit in? Because my comparison to him is a version of Magic Johnson. Maybe somewhere between Karl Malone and Magic Johnson. But I don't know if he would have been what Mike was to that era and just dominate, and not just win the 6 championships, but Mike could have won the scoring title every year. Mike could have won the steals title every year. Mike could have been defensive player of the year every year if he wanted to. But he deferred because he wanted one thing more than any, and that was them rings. He wanted 6 rings, man. That's my question.
Yeah. So how would LeBron? It's interesting. LeBron would either be a failed power forward, and people would never talk about him as one of the all-time greats, because if the wrong coach got their hands on him and said, go in the post and, be that Anthony Mason kind of guy that just powers people away, his talents would have been wasted. Now, if he got a smart coach, if he got like a Jack McKiskey, like Magic did in his rookie season, if he got a guy like that who said, hey, I see your ability to penetrate, to dish, your willingness to pass, I'm going to make you my 6'9" point guard. You see a very athletic Magic. So imagine Magic. Now, here's the thing too. His scoring would go down. His scoring would go down because you have to, in that time, he wasn't going to be shooting all these threes. So you got to knock off 5-6 points a game. So he's down around that same Magic 20. I think Magic was at 20. He'd be a little better, like 22, 23, but his assists would also go up. So you would see a guy who scores better than Magic, who's, getting to the rim. And even though it was tougher to get to the rim, you had, no 3-second rule. You had the center kind of hanging out there. He's still jumping over them and dunk. You have probably a lot more highlights. So I have him as like 25, 10, and 10. Like, I think he's a triple-double beast in the 90s at 25, 10, and 10. And he's, again, still in that conversation of GOAT and winning rings because he has to adjust his game to it, but there's no way he doesn't adapt. He is too talented. He's too athletic. He can do too much on the court. Now, again, it's going to depend on he has to be in that right system that someone trusts him. Because if you remember, and I know we're going to talk about this in a minute, Jerry West wanted to put Magic down in the post next to Kareem and help and do the dirty work. Well, it never would have been the Magic we know if he was doing that. So if he had the right system, and that's really important, he's the guy that takes over that mantle from Oscar as the triple-double king. But it's listen, when you're talking about elite all-time greats, you can put them in any era. They're going to be great. That's another misconception. People think if you move them around, they'll adapt and do something different, right? Like, if I may, Steph Curry.
I agree with that. But just for example, if you put KD in that same era, I don't think he's as effective just because of the physicality that was allowed then.
There's exceptions. I'm not as high on KD as some others. So he's one that you probably shouldn't bring up to me, because I'll bash KD. I think KD is in a perfect situation where he gets to sit outside, shoot three. He's maybe the most versatile scorer ever. But if he had to adapt his game where he couldn't shoot threes anymore, what is KD? Right. And that's my big. What is KD? He's not an elite defender. He's not okay, he could post up, but can you imagine him having to post up Hakeem, Patrick Ewing?
He's George Gervin. He's George Gervin.
Right. He's maybe George Gervin. Again, still great. Like, whereas the example I was going to give is Steph Curry. You put Steph Curry in the 60s, and people I've said, well, with no 3-point line, he's done. I said, no, he's about the same size as Jerry West. He's got better ball handling than Jerry West. He's Jerry West, probably a better Jerry West. So he's still great. He's just not shooting from the logo. That's all.
Right. I love that take, man, about that, man. I really do. A good take.
So my thing is, we like I said, we've been watching all of these just resurgence of appreciation for Magic Johnson. You have Winning Time on HBO, and you have Call Me Magic on Apple TV, which I thought both of them have their highlights for me. Like, you know, I like the entertainment value from Winning Time, and I like the all of the introspective that we got from Call Me Magic. Seeing this, and G kind of hit on it earlier, man. Seeing this, did it give you a new appreciation of Magic Johnson? Did you I know you came in like being a Magic fan, but it brought back a lot of things to me that I forgot Magic Johnson did. Like, you forgot Magic would dunk on you. Like, it's not one of those things.
I never forgot. I kept telling people he could get up. Tell Bird would dunk it on you too. I keep telling people, you gotta go back. They're not as unathletic as you think.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's interesting. Again, growing up a Magic fan, it was all that stuff. It maybe brought it back more. There was a couple of things that I think I didn't know. Whereas again, I was a kid, so I all the game stuff and all the highlights and those things, that stuff I knew. But some of the behind the scenes stuff, about how the coaching, what the ownership changed, that wasn't something that was on my radar back then. So that stuff, the behind the scenes stuff. Here's the thing about these two shows. I describe Winning Time as a fictional biography because although most of it is very true, they've glamorized it. They've changed it enough to make it entertaining. The This Is Magic. Listen, man, that's an autobiography. Somewhere in the middle of those two shows is the truth. I think Winning Time went a little too far on one side. And listen, if I'm putting my own name on it and I'm interviewing for it, it's kind of like The Last Dance. I'm going to try to make myself look as good as possible.
Right. Yeah.
Somewhere in between those two shows is probably the truth of what was happening behind the scenes. Obviously, we know Jerry West is really unhappy with the way he's been portrayed in Winning Time, and he's had guys like Michael Cooper and Worthy and Magic come out and say, "Yeah, that wasn't him, right? That wasn't him." So I'm gonna side on with those guys who know him the best and say, okay, that's probably not an accurate depiction. But man, from an entertainment value, I love watching Winning Time. That's just, even if it was about a fake team, that's a great show. I'd watch that show. You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely.
I like Winning Time a lot too. I've yet to see the documentary on Apple TV yet. I tried to log into my Apple TV last night and I couldn't get it, so I haven't seen it yet. But Sports Fluent, man, when did Magic like become your favorite player? Were you hip to him at Michigan State, or was it his rookie year with the Lakers when they beat Philly in the championship? Because Magic is my all-time favorite player. I'm a huge LeBron fan. I love MJ because you gotta love MJ, right? I mean, I got all the shoes and stuff. So you gotta love MJ. Magic is my all-time favorite. LeBron, because I'm from Ohio, and LeBron's an Ohio home kid, homegrown Ohio kid, stuff like that. So that whole narrative drew me to him. But Magic is still my all-time favorite. How and when did Magic become your favorite all-time player?
So I'm going to work it backwards for you. So I'm going to start now. So my favorite players now are Giannis and Ja. Those are my two. Those are the two that I will go pay to watch any day, anytime. One, listen, Giannis was born near my parents' hometown in Greece. So there's a little, my dad says it's got to be my favorite. And then Ja, I love the way he plays. Prior to that, it was Kobe. So, and the reason for that is I used to ball. And when I got hurt and, my scholarship disappeared and I wasn't going to ever make any money playing ball, that was the same year. I always say that the Lakers drafted Kobe, but the same year that Charlotte drafted and traded Kobe. It's just easier to say when the Lakers got Kobe. So Lakers are my favorite team. They draft this guy out of high school. I now can no longer play. I'm living my basketball career vicariously through Kobe. So Kobe became my favorite. And then prior to that, it was always Magic. And the funny thing is, if you look at my social media, people will be like, this guy's a huge Jordan fan. I hated Jordan because I'm a Lakers fan. And in 91, he dismantled my Lakers and made them look horrible. I hated Jordan. But when I look at him, people say he stinks. I'm like, nah, man, I got to defend him because he doesn't stink. He's the greatest basketball player of all time. But I was never actually that guy that was raw Jordan. I kind of hated Jordan a little bit. But then I grew to appreciate him. Kind of like LeBron. I didn't like LeBron when he came into the league at all. And now I really appreciate what he is like. I'm glad that I got to see these 19 and who knows, might be 25 years of him playing. So to go back, I saw like my first basketball game that I saw was that NCAA championship game, and I saw Magic versus Bird, and he wasn't my favorite player yet. And so the next year I was like, oh, he got drafted by the Lakers. Bird got drafted by the Celtics. And growing up in, I don't know if you guys know this, growing up in Toronto, we didn't have a team back then. So they were like, all right, who's your team? It's either the Lakers or the Celtics. There's really no other choice. And people laugh at me because I tell the truth. The reason I picked the Lakers, I don't like green. That's it. That's the reason I picked the Lakers.
It was a color thing.
Celtics were green. I don't like the color green on me, so I'm like,
I thought you were talking about AC green.
No, I like AC green. Iron Man right there. No, I didn't like the color green, so I was like, well, I'll just go with the Lakers. Forget the Celtics. So now it's like, okay, they drafted Magic. So now I'm like, all right, let me watch. And then when you see Magic play, like the first few times I saw games, and listen, it's on tape delay, but I mean, again, where I am in Toronto, they only show Lakers or Celtics game. You don't even get occasionally the Sixers. Occasionally we get the Sixers, but you'd never see any other games anyways. So I'm seeing Magic. It's on tape delay. You know, they let me stay up late and he's doing this and that. I'm like, wow. Like this, I understand why they call him Magic. He was Magic. So as a kid, I'm like, you know, kids are into Magic. I just happen to be into basketball Magic. And so then I started actually really paying attention and watching kind of everything that he did. I started to play. I started to try to mimic him. I was a much better shooter, nowhere near as good of a passer as much as I tried to be as good of a passer as he was. So I just stopped passing. I just kept shooting. But yeah, no. So it was just watch. And then of course, listen, let's be honest. All my favorite teams, I was very lucky when I started watching them. They won a championship, and once you get that early success, oh, you just stick. You just stick. So you know, I'm watching Magic, and they win a championship in the first season. I'm like, all right, it's a wrap. I'm in. I'm in.
Magic was my favorite player, but back during that time, I personally was a Philadelphia 76er fan because before Magic, Dr. J was my favorite.
Yeah,
and then that 83 team with Dr. J and Moses and Cheeks and Andrew Toney and those guys. Yeah.
That's an underrated team. That team needs to be discussed more when we talk about the greatest teams. That team was stacked.
That was a good time. Very, very good team.
And it's too bad we got Dr. J late because ABA Dr. J, that was a different beast, man.
Monster.
Hey,
monster.
The Rucker, let's say the Rucker Dr. J was a different monster. Him at the Rucker, I mean, during that time, something else. So now, Big G, you had a question. Go ahead, G.
So listen, I've been just a basketball fan. I can't front because I've been depressed since John Stark shot us out of the championship game years ago against the Houston Rockets, man. I'm a diehard Knicks fan, but I love basketball. I'm still, every time I see John Starks, I just want to punch him straight in his mouth because he shot us out of game 7, man. Nobody goes 3 from 17, and Pat Riley pull him and put him on the bench, you know, but that's just me. But for years, I've loved just basketball in general, right? And so I love what Magic brought to the game and him being able to come in and sort of like gel with those older, mid-range to older players like Jamal Wilkes, like Norman Nixon, like Abdul-Jabbar, right? But I think that the deal about Magic was just as much about his ability to play as it was about Jerry Buss. Jerry Buss's ability to surround Magic Johnson with talent, like, I mean, how in the world do you win the championship and 2 years later you get James Worthy? How in the world did you get Byron Scott? How do you pull off this stuff to get guys up around him? That, I mean, when you start talking about all-time great teams, 1, 2, or 3, you got to mention that back-to-back Lakers team that, to me, 1 through 7 might be the best roster ever assembled. So outside of the Chicago Bulls' second trip, that might be the best 1 through 7 ever assembled. So I'm like, you know, that's Dr. Buss. Yeah, that's Magic. And people want to play with Magic. But
Magic was dropped into talent, though. I mean,
yeah, the Lakers are already a really good team when Magic goes in. And I'll say this, he's very fortunate. You know, that I don't know if you guys, I'm sure you do know, but the fact that Boston had drafted Bird the year earlier because of that loophole in the college transfer thing where he goes from Indiana to Indiana State, and they draft him 6. Because really, who would they have picked? They probably would have picked Bird if they're both in the same draft. And then it's a whole different thing because he goes to, I think Magic would end up in like Chicago or something.
Well, yeah, it was a coin flip. It was a coin flip for Chicago and LA.
Yeah.
And
But the thing I want to go back to, so to your point, so yes, bust, they all deserve credit for, but he goes into a really good situation. Plus, he's the type of player. What is Magic's? Listen, I'm gonna sound like such an old head right now. So if there's kids listening, listen to this. It's actually important. Everybody just wants to shoot logo threes now. But if you want to get onto a good team and you want them to love you and respect you and like give you all the minutes you want, pass the ball. Because that's
right.
what Magic went in and said, Kareem, I'm going to make your job easier. I'm going to help you score more points with easy dunks where you're not getting triple teamed. You know, even Norm Nixon, you're going to get open shots. Coop, you're going to get dunks. When Worthy comes in, you're going to get layups and dunks. Well, heck, who wouldn't want to play with a guy who's just dropping dimes on you all day, left and right? I loved having a point guard who would penetrate, dish, and I just sit in the corner and shoot threes. That's my dream job. I love it. So I think it helped his style of play as well. But yeah, when you got a lot of talent around you and winning, right? Like I guarantee you, if those Lakers went 15 and 67, they probably aren't getting along as well as you know.
they're not
win a
getting
bunch of
along
games.
at all. They're not getting along.
I would guess. I don't know. The Lakers are the only team to win the championship and then get the top overall pick that very next draft. And they had a coin toss with the Clippers to get Worthy. That's how they got James Worthy. It was a coin toss.
Yeah, it was different. It was they made the changes to the draft significantly better for sure.
Right.
It was rigged, man. Let's just all just be real. It was rigged.
I mean,
they wanted the teams. They wanted those highlight teams that they was putting on TV. We're all old enough to know when Ted Turner tried to bust in the league and make the Atlanta Hawks relevant. You know, prior to like how Mr. Anthony said, it was Lakers, Celtics. Every now and then we got Philly. Every now and then we got.
But you got
every now and then we got San Antonio.
Yeah, you got the Hawks. You got the Hawks on TBS though. I mean, Ted Turner had his own station. I remember.
Right, but
I remember Fast Eddie Matthews and John Drew and Tom McMillan and Tree Rollins. I remember those boys.
Yeah.
Hey, my life changed when I got up here. I got a satellite and I got TBS for the Hawks and I got WGN just as Jordan was coming in, so I could watch all the Bulls games. That was great.
Same division. Didn't miss a game. Yeah. And Atlanta had Dominique. Oh my God, that just made it must-watch TV. Yeah,
man, we forget about Neek too. He was nice.
Yeah. Neek was the human highlight film, and he was a scorer too. I believe he would still average 25, 30 a game if he played this league.
If it wasn't for that jerk Michael Jordan, Neek wins like 7 scoring titles, and we're talking about how great Neek is, and now no one even talks about him unless we're talking about Duncan.
And gets maybe one chip. And maybe
maybe
about how many guys Jordan stopped from getting a championship. Barkley gets a chip. Karl Malone definitely gets a chip. Ewing gets a chip. You know, we're talking about dudes who are Hall of Famers, top 30 players ever, and Mike shut it down. That's why Bron, I love him, but man, come on, man. I mean, listen, Mike stopped cats from getting chips.
I don't like talking negative about him. I know you have a question, but let me just say this, and I'm not going to say anything else about Bron. My issue with Bron, the reason why Bron, because people always ask, what can he do to be number one? And my answer is he can't, because he did really 3 things that are kind of inexcusable to me if you're going to be the greatest of all time. Listen, I don't need to bring up 2011. We all know what he did in 2011. Mavericks. That alone should be enough. However, there's only one team, and everyone wants to blame the coach and the supporting cast. But listen, if you're that good for the whole season, I don't want to hear excuses. The only team in NBA history to win 60-plus games and never make an NBA final. The only team to win, back-to-back. I want to make sure I said it right. The only team to win back-to-back 60-plus games and not make an NBA final is that Cavs team.
Yeah.
The Cavs team that lost to Orlando? Is that
the one that they lost to Orlando and I think to the Celtics, I believe, those two in back-to-back years. And, you know, I even give a pass for 2007, but he played really – I know he was young, 4th year, 22. I know, but he didn't play good. He shot horrible. I
don't know that he needs a pass for that one, because he carried the team to the finals. It never should have been. I know.
I have them as the 4th worst team to ever make a final. They're horrible. I agree. Although they were 5th in team defense that season. They were a good defensive team. But I mean, like, people will say, oh, he was getting double teamed. No, he wasn't. Go watch. Bruce Bowen was covering him one-on-one in the post, and he had no post-up game. Now, that's bad coaching on their part to put him in the post. He shot 20% from 3. He shot 69% from the free throw line. Who was guarding him at the free throw line? So let's not give the guy a pass. Like, I get it, he was young, but fourth year in the league. So again, I give him a pass on that one. But 2011 and those two back to back. Look, listen, when you're comparing all-time greats, it's those little tiny things that.
Right. Let me ask hypothetical. Does 2007 Braun trade him out for Magic in 1980? Do they still win the championship?
They don't make it to the final.
Wow. Okay.
I don't think they make it to the final with anybody else but him. He is. That's why I say I give him, as much as I talk real about him on the stuff he did wrong, I give him all due respect. There is nobody else that could have done what he did to lead teams in points, rebounds, assists, timeouts, coaching, play calls. Like he led that team in everything.
He said,
you got to give him his credit.
Real quick,
46. Wasn't it 46? 15,
real quick,
game
G.
6? Yeah.
Real quick, G. So just sticking with the Magic theme, I have to ask this question. He's one of those players whose career was taken away from him at, probably one of the heights of his career. He could still really play basketball.
Mm-hmm.
So my first question would be, had Magic returned, no AIDS, and had Magic returned, does he get another championship? That's my first question. And then my second question is where does he rank amongst the players who, if it's like, hey, if this person doesn't get hurt or this doesn't happen to this person, they're the greatest ever. Where does he rank amongst those persons? If you could answer those questions.
So for me, he just plays straight through. So people forget, like people want to say if because they were trying to hold back the Bulls, oh, it's because he had AIDS and he was, he wasn't the same Magic. He was old. No, he wasn't. He just came off an MVP. He was tremendous. If he keeps playing, he's in his prime. And what was he developing? Right, we saw it later when he came back. It was too late though, a few years later. But he was developing an outside shot. He understood that the game was moving in that direction of kind of deeper and even 3-point shooting. He was getting better. So do they win another championship? Listen, I have faith in the Lakers. I think they'd put a team around him. With that team that he had in 91, no. But if they make some moves, yeah, I think they either make it and maybe beat again, depending on the team they have. Maybe they beat the Bulls, maybe they face the Bulls again, or maybe it's in that 94, 95, right? Maybe it's not the Rockets back to back. Because listen, that Rockets team, if you look at that team up and down, we got to give Hakeem a lot of credit because that's not a good. Neither one is a very good team, especially the first one.
Hey, Houston went back to back though.
Yeah, I know. I know. So that's what I say. So that might be a situation where he could go in. So yeah, I think he could win another one. And to answer your other question, well, I have him fourth all time as is. So if he played another 5 years of his prime, you're making a solid case of it. It might be like I say, I have 1, 2, very, 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 very small gap, Kareem 3, and then a gap and Magic 4. That gap closes if he keeps playing. I mean, there might be no gap if that gap keeps playing. I might actually not even have.
Is Bird 5? Is Bird 5? Just out of curiosity, is Bird 5?
You want my honest answer?
Yeah.
Or the answer I give? I'll give you the answer I give. Kobe's 5 because Kobe's my favorite player all time, and Kobe's 5, and I hate the Celtics. So Kobe. But if I take that out, I have Bird 6. So Bird's probably 5. So I won't admit that very often, but
so I got a question to ask about 2 players, and where would you rank them in the top 10?
Okay.
Shaquille O'Neal, Tim Duncan. Where are they at in the top? Are both those players in the top 10 players?
Oh, they're absolutely both. They're absolutely both in my 10. I'm trying to look to find my list because sometimes here we go. I got Shaq at 8. Okay. Oh, I got Shaq and Duncan right one after each other, 8, 9.
Okay. Yeah.
So I'll just tell you my 10. I got Jordan, James, Jabbar, Magic, Kobe. That's the 5. And then I got Bird, Wilt, Shaq, Tim Duncan, Hakeem Olajuwon. And yes, Bill Russell is not in the top 10. He's 11.
I've never put
because I don't wait rings to me, right? That's why when people say, "Oh, you only have Jordan 1 because of the 6 rings," I don't even use rings until the absolute end. If you're tied, and I have 6 and you have 4, then I give it to the guy that has 6. But I mean, you have to go through about 30 other things before I get to that point.
What puts Wilt over Shaq?
Wilt, man, Wilt is a better all-around player than Shaq, defensively, offensively, and through. Listen, he didn't perform. I mentioned it earlier. He was great in the playoffs, but I mean, as an individual player, if I have to pick one to be on my team, if I could slap Will in the head and say, "Stop being so greedy," here's a guy who led the league 50 points a game, played 48 plus minutes a game, didn't win the damn MVP. Figure that one out.
Right.
Who then also led the league when he was asked to or made to feel bad. Oh, you can't pass. Led the league in total assists. So he could score. He could pass. We all know he could rebound. He could block. He could defend. There's nothing. People go look at some footage too. He's shooting like 15-foot turnaround fadeaway jumpers and making them consistently.
Right.
He is so and in terms of as an athlete, is he as strong as Shaq? No, although people will say he benches more. I don't know if I believe that one. But he's more athletic. So I'm taking the guy who's the better. Look, they both couldn't shoot free throws, so okay. But I'm taking the guy who's more athletic and can do everything. It's just Wilt probably stood in his own way from being the greatest player of all time, hands down. There's no question, if he just was a team player, people wouldn't even think about Russell. If Shaq had the Mamba mentality, then it would be no debate either. It'd be Shaq.
No debate.
It's just that he just didn't have that.
Yeah.
Did you happen to see the Pivot podcast that Shaq was just on?
I haven't seen the whole thing. I'm about halfway through it.
Okay, no, it was really good. Shaq said in today's game he would average 60.
Okay, all of that is nonsense. All of that is trash. I hate those takes. I remember. I think Jerry Rice once said, "If I played in today's NFL, I'd have 4,000 yards a season." I'm like, no, you wouldn't. Like, it's
correct.
It's still a team game, and honestly, Shaq, they're still going to foul you, and you're still going to miss, right? Like, you still can't shoot from the outside. Listen, he's going to be dominant. He's going to put up his 25, 30. But is he a more skilled? I'm going to get killed for this. Is he more skilled than Joel Embiid?
No, not by far.
No, he can't shoot the outside. He can't shoot from the free throw line. He'll dominate inside. He'll power them. But he's going to do the.
I would argue if Joel Embiid had a little bit more of Shaq's mentality, he would be a better player.
I listen. If Joel Embiid, I'm going to get. My Philly fans are going to kill me for this one, but since they just lost to my hometown Toronto Raptors, I can say this now. Congratulations to the Toronto Raptors, by the way, 110-102 winners over the Sixers. If Joel Embiid stopped whining and complaining and just powered up a little bit more,
right?
Think about it, he's in the MVP conversation as is. Could you imagine if he stopped all that crybaby nonsense and just played hard? It'd be clear cut who the best player was in the league because he's got all that skill to do it.
Right.
So even Jordan, when they say, oh, he'd score 40 a 50 game. No, he wouldn't. Jordan would score as much as his team needed him to win. That's the one thing about these guys that you have to understand.
Well,
that's what would happen.
Anthony, I got to say, I'm a firm believer that Jordan would average 37, 40 in today's league. He was just one of the greatest scorers that we've ever seen with a basketball in his hand. He could score any way you wanted him to. He scored from his back, under his leg, around his head. I mean, anywhere. So,
here's why I don't think that. For Jordan to put up 37, he's shooting about 27, 30 field goal attempts a game because that's the year that he did score 37 a night. That's what he did. I think 27 field goal attempts. There's more efficient, better ways for your team to score. I think he still averages 30, 32, but his assists go up maybe one or two because on his team, he's not going to just think about his team. They were scoring about 90, 95 a night. And the second best scorer was a guy who couldn't shoot in Scottie Pippen. Right? Let's be honest. If you didn't give him a fast break, dunk, layup, he's not shooting. So who do they have? Nobody. Now you take that to a league where instead of 95 points a game, they're scoring 110 and you've got shooters all around because every position can now shoot. Yeah. Well, he's not dumb. He's going to pass it to his. Think about it. Are you trusting Bill Cartwright to shoot a bunch of jumpers? No. But if he has Cat, he's probably kicking it out to Cat for a three. Why wouldn't he? So I think his assist numbers go up. I don't think he scores more because it would take away from those guys that can do stuff where he didn't. I don't think he had There's more. Listen, there's
what
more
about him
skilled
being fouled?
shooters around today than there ever was.
What about him being fouled? I think he would be fouled more. There's where I think the numbers would make it. I think he would make it to the free throw line a whole lot more, and those free throw numbers would make it up for me. That's the thing.
Here's the comparison. Speaking of Joel Embiid, Joel Embiid gets fouled even when he doesn't get fouled more than probably anybody in the game. I think he goes to the line 11, 12 times a game.
Yeah.
He shoots 49.9% from the field, and he averaged 30 points a game. Well, for his career, what did Jordan do? 30 points a game, 49.7, and probably about 8 free throws a game. So you give him those extra 2 or 3, he's scoring 32 points a game.
Yeah,
no, I can't argue with numbers.
That's the way I look at it. That's the way I
can't argue with numbers, man. You know,
but that field goal percentage for Joel Embiid is the exact reason I say is more left in the tank that he can give us. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, I think Embiid should be averaging 35 and 10, 100. Right. Yeah, he should be able to do that again because he's going to the line so much. But there's times you'll see him, and I saw it in today's game. Now, granted, his thumb's hurting him, but I saw it in today's game, the first half before I joined you guys, where he was a little timid. He was like, I don't want to shoot, and just go for it, man. You're that guy. You're at the high post. Take a dribble, put it up. No one's gonna block you. Like I think Precious Achiuwa was on him, and Precious looks like he's a foot shorter than Embiid.
Yeah, 60
you shoot over him. So,
hey, let me one more thing before my transitions is where on your list you gave us your top 10. And I know you said the only active player on it is LeBron James. How far away is Giannis from making that list, whether active or when he's done? And where do you put Kevin Garnett?
Garnett's in my, for sure he's in my top 20. I don't remember where I have him. I think maybe 16, 17, 14, somewhere in that. Call it 14 to 17, somewhere in that range. I love Kevin Garnett.
I do too.
And then Giannis is a long way away from me even looking at, because he's in what, year 6, 7? What year is he in now?
Year 7.
Year 7, 8. Okay.
Yeah.
Like you got to give me at least 13 years. Now his trajectory is I think if he were to retire today, I'd have a hard time keeping him out of the top 20. If he keeps doing what he's doing, it's gonna be hard to keep him out of the top 15. But when I look at my 10, man, does he become the greatest power forward of all time? In which case, I put him over Tim Duncan. I don't know, right? Do I put him over Shaq? Like that 10, like I don't want to say it's untouchable, but it's really hard to get into that 10.
It's year 9. Big G. Tell him your take on Giannis, man.
Oh, this was what I said about Giannis, and it's based on what you said, the trajectory of him. If Giannis was to win the NBA Finals, win the championship this year, and go in the finals, I think Giannis is on the way to top 10. There's no ifs, ands, buts about it, because that would be back-to-back Finals MVPs, back-to-back championships, and already a 2-time MVP. When you start putting up numbers to numbers, I mean, we can start talking about shooting percentages and all whatever else, but numbers to numbers, when you look at that top 10 who's there, he's equivalent to some of those guys in that top 10. Two championships, 2 MVPs, 2 Finals MVPs. I mean,
let's see. Let's go down the list. We got 6, we got 4 of 10, we got 6 of 10, you got 5, 3. So Bird is Bird of all things. Bird is the low man on the chips.
Right.
I think Wilt's the other one. Him and LeBron are the only two with losing records in the finals with 2.
Yes.
Shaq's got 4. Duncan's got 5, and then Lajuan's got 2. So so maybe that bottom half. They're. But again, I said if he retired today, you're saying if he wins another one and gets a Finals MVP. It's like I said, he's inching closer. He's on the right path. And sorry, you asked me about somebody else. Oh, Garnett. Yeah, I already answered about Garnett. Okay.
Hey, I got a question
to kind of put on that. The dream is. I don't care what anybody. The dream is. I'm in Texas. If you can't tell, the dream is. Hey man, listen. It is what it is. The dream is really hard to take off of the list for me. I mean, third best center. Sometimes in my mind, I think he may have been the best. I mean, at his heyday and his prime, he was uncheckable. I mean, what were you gonna do? You had to foul him or beat him up, one of the two. But them steps. I mean, Shaq would even say it. You know, he was the player that he couldn't rattle, and he was the player that really gave him fits. But I mean,
from a skill perspective, just from a playing, forget all the accolades, forget the titles for a second. Someone asked me to why do I have Shaq over Hakeem? And this was just about a week ago. And when I broke it all down, I was like, actually, I don't know. I might have to change my mind, because if I eliminate, if it just eye test, okay, Shaq looks more dominant. But if I look at every stat, every act, like everything,
heck, man,
I might have to change my list, because Hakeem's a better offensive player. He's a better defensive player. He's a better passer. He has better footwork. He has better fundamentals. He led a worse team. If you think about it, look, Shaq was the best team on the three-peat Lakers, but he had Kobe. And then he went to Miami and he was the second best player, but he had Wade at Wade's like most craziest, right?
Yeah.
And so
the Flash. He had the Flash.
If I put Shaq in Houston, do they win back-to-back? I don't know that. I don't know that answer.
So they play big. They play Big Pac. They play Patrick Ewing and the Knicks, and who they play the next year? Oh, the Orlando Magic. So I think Shaq gets two. I think.
Well, I guess it depends what Shaq.
I don't know, because I mean, Kenny Smith, them they were good. Bob Ward was big game. Bob was good.
Clyde Drexler, Vernon Maxwell.
The second year with Clyde, I think the second one probably. That first one, I don't. I'm just saying I don't know. And so that's why I have a hard time. Like, I have it, but I'm like, I actually said this at the time when someone asked me the question. I go, I might have to reevaluate my 10 and maybe take my bias out of it and move some people around. All right. So
hey, I got a quick question to ask you, man. I heard you mention John Morant earlier, and I'm a huge John Morant fan, right? But out of these youngsters under the age of 22, 23 years old, man, I'm almost becoming a believer in another kid, man, because I'm watching him. And I'm like, man, this kid, and that's that Anthony Edwards, man. Is he really what I think he is?
Anthony Edwards is my guy. So let's be clear. When I said Ja and Giannis, I said they're my favorite to watch. That doesn't mean they're my, they're the best or they're going to be the best. They're just my favorite. I just enjoy watching the way that they play.
Yeah.
I said, it's funny on Fluent and Chill, I was saying, watch Anthony Edwards this season. Even if Minnesota gets knocked out in the first round, you're going to see him be the guy on that team. And I love when I'm right. I always tell people, as much often as I'm right, when I'm wrong, you'll never hear about it again. But when I'm right, you're going to hear it. Like, I picked Marcus Smart. I picked Scotty Barnes. I'm 2 for 2 on awards, so everybody's going to hear about it. But that being said, Anthony Edwards, I think in 5 years is the league MVP. I think he is the face of the league. He's that good.
How, Anthony, when you still got Luka in the league, who's just as young?
I'm telling you.
How you can say that?
You know why? Because I think he's going to put up comparable numbers, and he's going to be more fun to watch, and people care about that. And you shouldn't, but Luka's like, man, like when you're hungry and you get like a really good sandwich, and you're like, this is great. But like when you go for filet mignon, you forget all about that sandwich. Even though that sandwich was really, really good and it was filling and it was delicious and it was great.
Oh my God.
That filet mignon just hits different. So I think he's got that. And here's the other thing. Anthony Edwards is ascending, and people will like that story that we see him kind of start here and then go up. Luka was playing pro ball since he was like 7. So he came into the league ready to play, which is why you see his numbers from day one, but he's already kind of at his peak. I don't think his numbers change. If anything, if Dallas, and I feel bad for him, if Dallas, I bumped my mic there, if Dallas does the right thing and gets him some pieces, because I hate that roster around him. So eventually they're going to put something around him. Well, what's going to happen? Listen, he's going to have to, as he should, share the ball. His numbers, not a lot, but they'll creep down a little bit to give room for that second star. So I think what you see now is what you're going to see. You're not going to see, like typically year 4 or 5, you see this kind of spike, and that's who the player becomes. I think we saw that from Luka like year 2. So he's going to be very consistent, but where could he go from here? What's he going to do? 35, 15, and 15? Like, I don't see that happening, right? Maybe, but I doubt it.
Man. I mean, if you get Luka or Robin, I think you see a different Luka. Like, you know what I mean? He'll still, I think assist wise, he'll go up. Defensively, he'll even go up. I mean, you could see a better player that could be.
You could see Luka being a better defensive player than Anthony Davis.
Well, no. I mean, but he's still going to be a better defensive player than Luka is right now if he had some help. You know what I mean? Just when you get other people around you.
I'm not saying Luka's got a great
better.
chance. Luka, I've underestimated Luka every step of the way. And he has proved me wrong, but again, I'm projecting 5 years out. Like I said, it's almost like we get bored of these guys, which is terrible. We're like, yeah, that's just Luka doing Luka things, right? But you see at the edge, it's like, oh wow, like you see that people like to see that ascension. So I'm really high on Anthony Edwards. My only concern with him is that he's in Minnesota. That's my only concern. Like when a player's in Minnesota, Sacramento, like a couple of places, I'm worried about them.
So a couple of things that we want to get to before we get out, because we're getting ready to get out of here. Chris Paul, Scott Forster. I mean,
Scott Foster's trash, man.
Awesome.
Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
Scott Foster. I mean, here's my thing.
He's full trash.
Is it a coincidence that he's 0-14 against, or is there something there? Are we making something of it, or is there literally something there between these two guys?
I'll tell you two things. One, I don't believe in coincidences. Two, I love conspiracies. And maybe I'll tell you three things. And three, I don't think sports are rigged or scripted. I used to use that term. I'd say scripted. I don't think they're scripted. But I do think that there's a little nudge in certain areas where they want things to happen. And I think there are you can't listen. The refs are human beings too. They have natural biases towards people. And if they don't like you because, I don't know, you didn't sign their kid's autograph one day or you bumped him and didn't say sorry, people hold those things. As silly as it sounds, even refs. So I don't know what the deal is. I want to dive in a little bit deeper. I don't know what it is between Chris Paul and Scott Foster, but there's something. Like 0-14, listen, 0-5, okay.
Yeah.
0-10 is a bit of a trend. 0-14, there's something. There's something there. I don't know what it is, but when I saw it came up last week, I think was the first time it came to my attention, and we're gonna actually do a deep dive on it on the show on Wednesday, because we do a segment called Conspiracy. So we like to dive into sometimes non-sports, like we talk about landing on the moon. But we also do like the frozen envelope for your Knicks when they stole Patrick Ewing. We try to talk about his bed. So this is going to be
they probably paid John Starks off too, man, while you playing. Don't get me started, man. I was about to go off, man. I can't stand John Starks, man. Go ahead, man. Just keep going.
No,
man.
I feel bad for Knicks fans. This is the mecca of basketball, and it's been a while since they've been since they've been good, but. There's something there. I wish we knew what it was. But again, 14, when you get to 14, Well,
one of the things that I saw he said that I thought was weird, and Scott, he said to Chris Paul in the playoffs, he said, hey, remember I was in game 7. He said, yeah, I remember your first game 7 that I called that you lost. How would you, as a ref? I mean, I don't understand how a referee would bring that up to a player on the actual court as we're playing another game 7. That would be in my head. Like I said, there's something between the two. Don't know what it is. I don't know.
Have you ever reffed any kind of sport at any level?
Yes, I have.
Okay. So have you ever reffed like where it's the same, like in the same kind of league, so you see the same players maybe more than once?
Well, I mean, yeah, but it wasn't long. So yes, okay. I mean, it
was I did, and there was a guy, it was high school basketball, and there's a guy at this school that would bark as he ran, like as he played defense, he would bark at his at the guy he was defending.
This is a high school?
Yeah, high school. So that sticks out in your mind because the guy's barking. The other thing that I noticed that he always started to do, because the guys were complaining about it, is as they came off a screen, he would grab their shorts and twist them so that they couldn't get around the screen, so that he could go under the screen and stay in front of them. Right. Well, of course, someone brought it to my attention, so I looked at it, and I was like, oh, man, he totally does do that. So the second time he did it, I saw him, and I was like, oh, yep, foul. Well, what I ended up doing is every time I heard this barking guy every time I heard this player who was barking, every time a screen was set on him, I almost automatically called a foul, even if he didn't tug on their shorts, because it was like they made me think that just was happening all the time because it was in my head. So like 5-6 games in, he's like, every time I come off a screen, you're calling a foul on me. I said, well, because you're always pulling their shorts. And then I was like, hold on, let me look. Oh, he actually didn't do it that time. Okay, let me let him go. So it could be something as silly as that. Is it gets put into your brain that that's happening. So you keep calling it, and you can't. It's not conscious. It becomes like this subconscious thing. So maybe it's as simple as that. I don't think so, but maybe.
And G, you have one more question before we get our parting shots?
Yeah, man. I just got to hear Fluent's take on these trash Lakers right now, man. Listen, I destroyed the Lakers a couple of weeks ago on the show. I done renamed Anthony Davis as always down. He needs to come with a stretcher all the time because he's horrible. I went in on Russell Westbrook. I'm glad they got rid of the coach. I think Dwight Howard, it's time to pack him up. Monk and Tucker need to go back to the G League. I mean, it's a lot going on. And they horrible. But anyway,
Monk about to get paid, man.
Monk trash. Monk is trash. And anyway, going back to what I was saying.
Put the fire up, man. Put the fire up.
You can put it up all you want to. Monk trash. But anyway, what are they going to do to fix the situation in Los Angeles around LeBron, man?
So let me start with around LeBron. I actually feel sorry for LeBron. I don't think he's ever had the right pieces around him for the type of player that he is. I wish I was a GM because my job would be really easy putting players around LeBron. Now, this season in LA is partially his fault. He asked for day-to-day Davis. He asked for Westbrook, right? He asked for these guys.
Wait. He said day-to-day.
You didn't know that one, day-to-day Davis? Yeah.
No, man.
He asked for day-to-day Davis. He asked for Westbrook. So that's kind of his own fault. Yeah. Vogel, and people, I'll go back 4 years, and I told people, I said, or 3 or however many years, I said, Vogel's the wrong guy. And they're like, but he won a chip. I'm like, this is the Lakers. We don't play for one. Right. We don't play for one. If we're not playing for back-to-backs, then we don't play. We're the Lakers. So I didn't like, and I also think his assistants, like Jason Kidd and others, played a huge role, right? I'm not saying anything about the bubble. The bubble, everybody had to go under the same circumstances with the bubble. So I didn't like Vogel. This season, what did I see? I saw a horrible coach. And here's why I say a horrible coach. The team had zero effort on defense. That's coaching. They weren't motivated to play defense. That's what stopped them from winning. Anthony Davis.
Is that coaching? Because Frank Vogel's always been a great defensive coach. His Indiana teams.
But motivation is the head coach. Motivation is the head. And if they're not motivated to try, that's on you.
You think that's just not a bunch of old guys not wanting to play defense, though?
Then shake it up. Yeah, it might be. It might be. But then that's why I also put just as much. I put equal blame on Rob Pelinka, on Mike Vogel, on LeBron James, and the players. But Vogel, to keep on him for a second, Anthony Davis got no easy buckets. And again, as a coach, your job is to create plays and situations where your best players, like Anthony Davis, that needs to get off with some early shots, early dunks, whatever, to put him in a situation where he gets some easy. Everything was forced. Watch their offense. Everything was so forced. So to answer your question, what do they need to do? They need to look, if LeBron's going to stay 2-3 more years, which I can't believe I'm going to say this because he's like 30, whatever he is, 37. But you need to figure out, will he buy into a system where he just doesn't have the ball all the time? Because I think what I said when Westbrook came in was, look, it's not going to work unless Westbrook is the primary ball handler and LeBron becomes like a on the wing 3-point shooter. Look, he was 37% last season. He can do that. So let Westbrook do his thing, control the ball, penetrate, and dish it out to, I thought at the time, Ellington, Monk. They picked up another guy too who could shoot threes, LeBron. Let them do that, right? And then have Anthony Davis and Howard and those guys kind of work down low. That's the only way it would have worked. They didn't do that. So, if Charlotte truly wants Westbrook and Jordan's dumb enough to do that, ship him. Go. If anyone's going to take Davis and you think there's a way you can, trick someone to thinking he can be healthy, ship him. And just because there's guys, look, I'm not saying, listen, this is going to sound very Laker fanish, but there's guys like Damian Lillard, Zion Williamson, there's Rudy Gobert. There's much better fits in LA than what's there. And I think pieces, draft picks, they can make those types of moves and actually put in a team. And let me be clear. This, I haven't said this today. I don't believe in super teams. I think it's a little crap because if you don't play super, you're shit. That's always been my thing.
Right.
I don't know if you're allowed to cuss on the show. I apologize.
You're
So
right.
I think if you just put a collection of stars together, that doesn't make the team good.
Yeah.
And if you look, how successful have these super teams been? Were the Nets successful? No.
Trash.
Lakers? No.
Trash.
Yeah, literally, they're all even Miami. If you count, if you think two out of 4 is success, no, it's not. Even the Warriors get KD, and because of health, they can't even three-peat. And they're not even considered a super team because they drafted everybody except one guy.
Right.
So when I say that they're biggest, so I think if they can really look at it and say, okay, instead of let's bring in the biggest names, who can play complementary to the style of play that this person is playing or that our team wants to play, they can turn it around faster with lesser names. I tell you, I could build a team of. Just look at the Bucks. They got their superstar. Is Drew Holiday a superstar? No.
Nope.
Is Middleton a superstar? No.
Mm-mm.
When they won, who did they have? PJ Tucker, Bobby Portis. Those guys aren't superstars, but I'd rather have a guy who knows his role, plays it to perfectly, than a superstar who's just going to want a ball and shoot. Like that doesn't work most of the time.
That's the San Antonio system. That's the San Antonio system.
San Antonio,
to say that because you had Steven Jackson. So parting shots take, man. Go ahead with your parting shot, man. What's your parting shot for today?
Man, I really don't have nothing much. I wanted to ask Anthony K about just his thoughts on because it's my squad, the Cleveland Cavaliers and Darius Garland and Evan Mobley. What do you think about that team and those guys?
Man, I hate the fact. Listen, you must hate the play-in tournament more than I do, because you work your tail off for 82 games. You get in that top 8 seed, and then you don't get to be in the playoffs, which would have been so good. What a great experience it would have been for that Cleveland team. Everyone thought Sexton was going to be the guy. Garland came in and said, "Nope, it's my job," and he took it. I love that. The team looks. You're set up for the next 5 to 10 years. As long as they make the right moves. It's Cleveland, so you got to be careful. As long as they make the right moves, this team's going to be a playoff team like every single year from here on in. And eventually, if those guys develop or they get in that one other piece, that's going to be a team that's going to be in contention in the East. So they did it for the first time, maybe ever. They really did it right with drafting these young guys and putting the team together. I loved watching this season. I think they were 5th before they started getting some injuries and some other things, and they dropped out. They looked really good all season. Yeah.
So this tweet and then G, I'm gonna let you hit with your parting shot. But this tweet, LeBron James said, "I will not miss the postseason again for my career. This hurt. Okay, back to watching these games." A friend of mine, good friend of mine, Ray Jackson, said he sit and watched this team, and then ... Never mind. Ray, who was one of the Fab Five. I agree with this thing. I mean, you watched your team underachieve during this time. How do you feel about that tweet?
I think it's a couple of years too late. He should have said that when he came on to the Lakers. He should have said, "Hey, we're never missing the playoffs, and here's what I'm going to do about it." Listen, putting out a tweet saying I refuse. Well, what did you do this season to make the playoffs? Like, great, you played great, you scored a bunch of points, but what did you do to win games? Did you get on Westbrook's? I don't know the answer. I'm not there. But did you get on Westbrook? Did you get on Anthony Davis? Did you talk to Pelinka and say, "Hey, I might have screwed up here. Let's make a move at the trade deadline. Let's let's do this, do that." If you dig your own hole and then say, "I'm gonna get myself out of this hole," well, yeah, that's right, you should. So I don't think there's anything. It wasn't a hot take as you throw up your hot takes. It wasn't a hot take for him to say that. You made this mess. You should clean it up. Absolutely, 100%.
Yeah. Big G, yeah.
Hey, wait. One more. I thought.
I gotta go. Listen, you guys don't know this. I'm Greek Orthodox. It's Easter weekend. There is people waiting for me. Last question.
Go ahead, Big G.
Yeah. So it's not a KnoItAllz podcast without a Big G burner, man. So I got to once again throw Zion Williamson underneath the bus, man. I saw him sitting on the bench last night. He looked like he was about 385 this time. instead of 365. And when they call timeout, he don't even go into the huddle or stand around the players. He off looking in the stands and all whatever else, man. Zion Williamson is the worst or lost talent that's ever come to the NBA. I've never seen a guy with that much talent be this pitiful, right? So I'm like, man, get him out. That's just my whole thing. I don't know if they got to G League him. I don't know if they got to send him and get him in shape. I don't know what. He's trash. He horrible.
Did you see his numbers when he played?
I don't care. He ain't playing now, so it don't matter now. And listen, guess what? If he was in shape and playing,
so
they might be up 2-1.
G, real quick, because he has to go. Anthony has to go. What was your question?
I don't have a question. That was just,
That's just it. He just wanted to get on Zion, who I kind of on draft night said he's going to be a problem.
It looks like it looks like you're a Chicago Bears fan. Are you?
I sadly, yes, I am.
What do you? I'm a Steelers fan. What do you think we can get from Mitch Trubisky? That's it. Can he be rehabilitated?
You want to trade Mitch?
No, I'm saying no. Can he be rehabilitated?
What can you get out of Mitch?
Right.
Oh, you're going to the playoffs.
Wow.
You're going to the playoffs. Listen. Do you ever have a losing record with Tomlin? You're going to the playoffs, and people are going to say, "Wow, Chicago's a horrible franchise that they let this poor kid Mitch look worse than he was." Look, he's not great, but he's not going to throw you out of games. He's not going to win them for you, but he's not going to lose them for you either. He's going to be kind of middle of the road. You're going to rely on Najee Harris. You're going to rely on that defense, and you'll be fine because, listen, Cleveland's still Cleveland. I don't care what Deshaun Watson does. He's going to miss 10 games. I guarantee you he's going to be suspended at least 6 to 10 games.
Wow.
So, right? Who else you got?
Differently.
Cincinnati. All right, Cincinnati is a problem. And Baltimore, you don't know. Is Lamar coming back? Is he going to be healthy? Like you have a legit shot of being the number 2 in that division. So Mitch isn't as bad as people think, but he's not great.
Yeah. So Anthony, man, I really appreciate you for hanging out with us today, man. We really do. Make sure you tell everybody where they can find you at on the internet and on the interweb, Dan Quayle's interweb.
Dan Quayle's interwebs. It's sports_fluent on TikTok, IG, Twitter. The show Fluent and Chill can be found at Chilltown Hoops on YouTube. And if I may just throw this up real quick, I don't know. Let me move this. Dem Ones is the new TV show. It's a comedy based in Toronto, coming out this summer on Netflix. So check out Dem Ones, July of this year.
Dem Ones, we will check that out, man. Thank you for coming
so
on,
much,
man. And you have an excellent rest of your holiday. You take care.
Appreciate it, guys. Thanks. Anytime.
Thanks.
All right, man. And G, man, you for your hot take, dude. I don't understand it, man. B Dirt said throw the flames up.
Man, I ain't worried about B Dirt. Man. He could keep throwing them up. Zion trash. Zion trash.
You've not said this before. You just said that he's eating himself out the league.
Zion
said that he was trash.
Zion trash.
Right.
Zion is the most wasted talent I've ever seen for an NBA player. I've never seen a guy this talented waste this much time. He's a waste. He's got to make his mind up, man, because I'm telling you, they would have beat Phoenix if Zion was on the floor. Matter of fact, they might be up 2-1 or 3-0. If Zion's on the floor, 100% healthy, able to play, they are smashing.
We're gonna explore this. We're gonna explore this some more before we actually get into our draft show tomorrow. But listen, man, if you like what you saw today, make sure you like and subscribe. Definitely when we go live on Facebook, you could like us there and subscribe on YouTube and Twitch. You could catch us even on TikTok, man. Definitely, we appreciate you guys for rocking with us today. And for the KnoItAllz, we are out of here, and peace.